Good evening, beautiful souls, or good afternoon, grand rising, whatever time it is that this message is being received by you. Highly favored, aka Rob, from the Covenant of Victory Eternally, coming at you with another message. One that's been real strong on my heart lately, but as always, I like to wait until the Father puts it on me to really push it out. And the message is this: get up and walk. Get up and walk. There are many times in our lives where we stop our motion. We get hindered by the circumstances that we go through. We let the valley of the shadow of death stop us from achieving the things that we know we're created for, the things that we know we should do. And you got to remember that it's a valley of the shadow of death, not a valley of death, the shadow of death, which means that that's just a perception, a way of viewing death, the darkness coming out in representation visually to put upon you the idea of death. But shadows can only be casted by light, just as my light is casting this shadow on me right now. And we have a light. That light is called hope, and that hope has been made known from God. His name is Jesus. Jesus the Christ. Christ consciousness is one of those anomalies that is bringing hope to those that haven't had hope in such a long time. But again, the shadows that we allow to hinder us from reaching the light is only cast by getting in front of the light, blurring your vision, discouraging you, decreasing you in many ways. I somewhat said waves. I meant ways, but it's interesting that they came out. Waves of decreasement, being decreased in waves, can happen. You know, I've said that certain activities can be a slippery slope, because it's very true. When you get on the road on a certain path, it can be hard to climb back up to where you once were, because you've walked onto a slippery slope. And as much as you may try to rise up, you find yourself falling back down. But God reminds us in Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Our aim is to be as close to God as possible. But that's not going to happen overnight. That's not going to happen without trial and error. That's why it says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And as I've made known before on one of my videos, I'm sure, my understanding of what sin is separation from God, independence from God, trying to do things all on your own, not acknowledging God, for the next step that you should take, the thoughts that you should think, the habits that you should form, anything. Just leaving God out of the picture is what sin truly is. And so many find themselves living in sin because they're living lives trying to do everything of their own accord, in their own power, by their own will. But as it says in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. You want to surrender yourself to God, and in doing so, you give yourself to the light and see less of the shadow. James 4:7 says, submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. This is the idea in trusting and surrender. It's not giving up. It's not saying, I can't do it anymore. Rather, it's giving up the things that you know wholeheartedly you need to give up. The things that are keeping you in the shadow. The things that are keeping you from being exactly who God has told you that you are. These might be substances. These might be people. These might be just environments in general. But we have to be discerning. We have to ask God, and that requires us to get out of sin, to keep ourselves with God, to acknowledge him, to ask for help from God, to go in a secret place and pray and meditate on his word. Because as it says in Psalms 119:105, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And so again, I say to you, get up and walk. You may fall, you may stumble, but these things happen for a reason. Like I tell everyone, my understanding after my brush with death, after I've been given a second chance at this life, that life in a nutshell is no pain, no gain. You have to go through something to get to something. At first it was darkness, void, and then there was light. And that light was hope. Hope through God and his word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. The words that we use, the words that come out of our mouth, they hold a lot of power. So speak life into yourself, as I speak life into you, asking you to get up and walk. In this process of improving, in this process of growing, we will feel the growing pains. But don't rush through it. Feel everything you need to feel. If God didn't want us to feel these things, he wouldn't give us feelings. We would be purely logical. Take your time. It's called a walk for a reason. One step at a time. Step once forward, doing something that you may have been afraid to do in the past because the shadows constantly tormented you with thoughts of what if. But imagine What if your life goes by and nothing ever changes because you never tried something different? You never gave up something that you know you should have. I promise you, after the pain, there is gain. And although things can be scary, new experiences can be something to be anxious about, God didn't give us a spirit of fear. And if God didn't give us that spirit of fear, then we know where it comes from. That enemy, that discourager, that voice in the back of your mind that makes you think that you can't do something before you've even tried. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." A sound mind in other translations can be self-discipline. And I like to think of it in a long form, saying sound mind. That makes me think personally of a mind that is void of sound, void of noise, at peace, capable of making decisions and being solid with those decisions, making change even though they may be intimidating decisions, and sticking to them. There are a lot of changes that go on in the world on a day-to-day basis, and it can be intimidating, it can be scary to think about. But the biggest changes in the world start with you. So, once more I tell you, get up and walk. God has you every step in the way, every step of the way, and in the way of the life. Proverbs 10:17 says, "He is in the way of life, that keepeth instruction, but he that refuseth reproof erreth." Follow the instruction that God gives you. Stay with God. Trust God. Let Him guide you. Let Him be that lamp on your path, shining away all the shadows. Because we know in a room full of light, with no obstacles in the way, there can be no shadows. And we also know, as my favorite Bible verse says, Romans 8:28, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose." I myself have hesitated doing a lot of things, such as even this YouTube channel. I never would have thought that I would have done such a thing before, but I felt called by God to share the things that come into my mind, to share the messages that I feel could be powerful for one person, and give them to many that could hear, that will hear. Matthew 11:15, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. I've changed a lot of things in my life, let go of a lot of things, people, environments, substances, and I've replaced them with other challenges that fill me up with what I feel is the very purpose that God had put me here for. And these are very small things. You don't have to change the world, so to speak. But again, the biggest changes in the world begin with you and the steps that you take on this walk with God. I have 30 pounds of wheat berries that I'm sitting on that I'm going to get started into milling or blending down into wheat flour, making my own organic recipes. One that I'm on the works with is pancakes using fresh wheat flour. Of course, pancakes call for eggs. Eggs, I don't think you can really get more natural than an egg. Goat's milk as opposed to the pasteurized milk that we get. And I'm doing it because I wanted to have a reason to have use for my homemade butter. I'm pretty sure it's become popular at this point how to make butter at home for yourself using heavy whipping cream. And so I made some butter myself. Using the heavy whipping cream and going through the process, I made some butter. And I added cinnamon sugar and a little bit of vanilla extract to get it to the proper taste that I wanted to have for it, because I wanted to make fresh organic pancakes and I wanted to have a nice butter to go with it. And the reason why I wanted to do those things is because I had an idea not too long ago to use dates as a way to make my own kind of organic sugar, because I know that dates have a high sugar content. And they do. And so it was a good idea in my mind. But after I got started in the process, I realized that I probably wouldn't get too much actual sugar out of it. It'd probably be a small amount compared to how much more the dates would benefit if I ate them whole. But since I was already halfway through the process, boiling the dates, decoying the dates, boiling them down, extracting all of the liquid from it, I decided to throw them on a pan and dehydrate that liquid. And since I saw that if I dehydrated it too far, I probably wouldn't get too much sugar, I left it at a midpoint, and so I have date syrup. And this is what that first idea of making date sugar led me to make date syrup, and which led me to want to make my own butter and fresh organic pancakes. All of these things, had their own processes. They all have their own processes. But again, It's one step at a time. And I know that I said that my last time saying this would be the last, but once more, I ask you, please, just get up and walk. Move forward. You got this. I pray that someone resonated with this message. If you did, leave a comment, maybe a like, subscribe if you want to hear more later on. But thank you for joining and for listening to a message from God. I pray nothing but blessings and love. Shalom, shalom. Peace be with you all.